Imagine a country so committed to its natural world that it protected a quarter of its entire land area as national parks and wildlife reserves. That generates nearly all of its electricity from renewable sources, that abolished its military in 1948 and redirected every peso of the defense budget into schools and hospitals and forests. A country smaller than West Virginia that contains 5% of all the biodiversity on Earth, more species of birds than the entire North American continent, more species of trees than all of Europe combined, more varieties of life pressed into its mountains and coastlines and cloud forests than most countries 10 times its size. Costa Rica is not just a destination. It is a philosophy made visible, the idea that the natural world is not a resource to be extracted, but a living inheritance to be protected. That the howler monkey in the tree above the road and the quetzal in the cloud forest and the sea turtle coming ashore at midnight are not attractions but residents, and that the human visitor is the guest, not the other way around. From the smoking summit of Arenal Volcano to the cloud-wrapped forests of Monteverde, this is not just travel. This is wonder. This is your journey through the unforgettable beauty of Costa Rica. Monteverde Cloud Forest. The road to Monteverde climbs into the mountains, and the mist arrives before the forest does. First as a softening of the air, then as a visible presence in the upper branches of the trees on both sides of the road. Then as a full immersion, the clouds settling over the reserve at 2,000 meters above sea level and refusing to leave. The Monteverde Cloud Forest is permanently wet. The mosses and bromeliads and orchids and ferns that cover every available surface, every branch, every trunk, every fallen log exist because of that wetness, drawing their moisture directly from the clouds that pass through rather than from rain. Walking the trails of the Monteverde Reserve in the early morning is to move through a forest of extraordinary visual density, layers of green at every level from the forest floor to the canopy high above. The hanging roots of strangler figs descending through the mist, the epiphytes growing from every branch in arrangements that have nothing to do with the soil below and everything to do with the cloud above. The sound of the forest is constant water dripping from leaves, the calls of birds moving through the canopy, the wind in the upper branches, audible as a pressure rather than a sound. The resplendent quetzal nests here in the dry season, the bird that the ancient Maya considered divine. Its tail feathers extending 60 centimeters below the body in iridescent green. Its chest a deep crimson. Its entire appearance suggesting that the forest produced it as a statement of what color is capable of. Seeing a male quetzal in the Monteverde Cloud Forest, perched in the canopy with its tail hanging below the branch and the mist moving behind it, is a bird-watching experience that photographers travel from every continent to find. And that the forest provides without any guarantee that it will. The hanging bridges of Selvatura Park extend through the cloud forest canopy at heights of up to 60 meters, suspended walkways that allow movement through a layer of the forest that only the wildlife normally accesses. Looking down from the bridge at the forest floor 60 meters below, and looking up at the canopy still above, the full vertical extent of the cloud forest becomes apparent a living structure of such depth and complexity that the bridge through its middle feels like the most privileged possible position from which to observe it. Arenal Volcano. Arenal rises from the plain of the northern lowlands in a cone of almost perfect symmetry, 1,670 meters of andesitic rock ascending from the flat agricultural landscape in a single, uninterrupted slope to a summit that smokes with the geological restlessness of a volcano that woke violently in 1968 and has been active in one form or another ever since. From the town of La Fortuna at the base of the volcano, Arenal fills the western sky, the cone visible on clear mornings in its entirety, from base to summit, the smoke from the crater moving in the prevailing wind. The perfect geometry of the mountain, making the surrounding landscape seem flat and provisional by comparison. The lava flows of Arenal's active decades left trails of dark rock descending the lower slopes. The vegetation has been working to reclaim them ever since. The forest pressing back against the edges of the lava field in the slow competition between rock and root that the forest always eventually wins. Walking the lava field trails at the base of the volcano, with the summit above and the hardened lava underfoot and the forest on both sides, is to be inside the most recent chapter of a geological story that has been writing itself in this valley for thousands of years. The hot springs fed by the volcanic activity of Arenal are the most accessible expression of what lies beneath the mountain, the thermal water emerging from the ground at temperatures that vary from pleasantly warm to genuinely hot, collected in the resort pools of the La Fortuna area, and available to anyone who wants to sit in mineral-rich volcano-heated water within sight of the cone that heated it. At night, with the volcano above and the steam rising from the pool surface and the forest sounds coming from the darkness on all sides, the hot spring experience at Arenal is the most specifically located pleasure that Costa Rica's volcanic landscape provides. La Fortuna. La Fortuna sits in the shadow of Arenal, a small town that grew around the waterfall and the volcano, and the visitors who came for both. Its main street, a sequence of hotels and restaurants and tour operators that has expanded in direct proportion to the increasing recognition of what surrounds it. The Catarata de la Fortuna, the waterfall that drops 70 meters into a pool of cold, clear water in a canyon of black rock below the town, is reached by a staircase of 500 steps descending through the forest from the car park above. The falls arrive before they are visible, the sound of the water growing through the forest as the staircase descends, the mist from the impact reaching the trail before the canyon opens. And then the view, the full 70 meters of white water dropping from the lip above into the circular pool below, the black rock walls on both sides, the spray filling the canyon air. The pool, the particular turquoise color that the combination of volcanic minerals and constant aeration produces. Swimming in the pool at the base of the falls, with the water cold from the mountain above and the mist from the fall drifting across the surface, is the most immediate encounter that La Fortuna offers. Beyond the waterfall, the landscapes around La Fortuna open into the farmland and forest of the Arenal Lake region, the reservoir created in 1979, stretching westward from the base of the volcano in a body of water large enough to generate a significant portion of Costa Rica's hydroelectric power. Its shores lined with small lodges and the windsurfers who have discovered that the consistent wind funneling between the volcano and the mountains to the south produces conditions among the best in the Americas. Manuel Antonio National Park. Manuel Antonio is the smallest national park in Costa Rica and the most visited. And on the trail from the entrance to the first beach, within 10 minutes of starting, the reason becomes immediately clear. A white-faced capuchin monkey moves through the canopy directly above the path, pausing to look down at the visitors below, with the frank assessment of an animal that has been in close proximity to humans for long enough to have formed definite opinions about them. A three-toed sloth hangs in the cecropia tree above the entrance to the beach trail. Its green-tinged fur and its absolute stillness, making it invisible to the visitor who does not know to look for the curved shape in the upper branches. A coyote moves across the path ahead, ignoring the photographer completely. The beaches of Manuel Antonio are what the photographs promise, and the reality delivers white sand, palm trees, the Pacific in shades of blue and green that the tree canopy frames from the trail above. Playa Manuel Antonio is backed by primary forest that comes to the sand's edge, its trees providing shade for the iguanas that sun themselves on the exposed roots and the birds that move through the canopy above the beach. The combination of forest and beach, wildlife and water, in a park of such concentrated biodiversity and such manageable scale, is the reason Manuel Antonio became the reference point for Costa Rican coastal ecotourism. The squirrel monkeys, the smaller, more anxious cousins of the capuchin, move through the beech forest in groups, their orange and olive coloring bright against the green canopy, their movements through the branches rapid and constant. Manuel Antonio holds the largest remaining population of squirrel monkeys in Costa Rica. And watching a group of 30 move through the trees above the beach is the kind of wildlife experience that the park's small size and high visitor numbers make consistently available. Osa Peninsula and Corcovado National Park. The Osa Peninsula requires commitment to reach, 4 hours south of Manuel Antonio by road or 40 minutes by small plane. The peninsula is the most remote major tourist destination in Costa Rica and the most rewarding. The Corcovado National Park occupies the southern portion of the peninsula in a tract of primary rainforest that National Geographic described as the most biologically intense place on Earth, and the description, however superlative, Corcovado holds 13 distinct ecosystems, over 500 species of trees, 140 species of mammals, and the last significant population of scarlet macaws on the Pacific coast. The ranger-guided trails of Corcovado move through forest of a density and a wildness that the accessible parks of the central regions do not replicate. The trees are larger the ceiba and the nazareno, and the espaval reaching heights of 50 and 60 meters. Their buttress roots spreading across the forest floor in walls of wood that the trail winds between. The sounds are denser: the howler monkeys at dawn, the white-lipped peccaries moving through the undergrowth, the constant background noise of a forest that has never been quiet. And the wildlife encounters are more unpredictable: the tapir crossing the trail in the early morning, the American crocodile in the Serena River mouth, the jaguar print in the mud beside the stream that the guide reads, with the attention of someone who knows how recently it was made. The beaches of Corcovado, Playa Serena, Playa Llorona, are accessible only to those who have walked into the park or arrived by boat, their isolation ensuring a wildness that no road-accessible beach in Costa Rica can match. At night, on the remote beaches of the Osa Peninsula, the sea turtles come ashore to nest under the protection of a park whose rangers have been guarding this coastline for decades. Tamarindo Beach. On the Pacific coast of the Guanacaste province, Tamarindo is where the dry tropics meet the sea. The landscape north of the town is different from anywhere else in Costa Rica, the dry forest of Guanacaste. Its trees deciduous in the dry season, their branches bare and gray against the blue sky, the cattle egrets white in the yellow grass of the pastures between them. And then the beach, a long open curve of brown sand facing the Pacific directly, the swell arriving from the open ocean without the protection of a headland, the surf consistent and well-formed on the sand break that runs the length of the bay. Tamarindo is where Costa Rica learned to surf, or where the surfers who came to learn taught the town to accommodate them. The surf shops and the surf schools and the board rental businesses that line the main street are the economic foundation of a town that was a small fishing village within living memory. The sunsets from Tamarindo Beach are the best on the Pacific coast, the sun dropping into the open ocean to the west, the sky above the water cycling through colors that the Guanacaste dry season air, clearer than the humid south, delivers with particular intensity. The estuary at the southern end of Tamarindo Beach holds the Tamarindo Wildlife Refuge, its mangroves, navigated by kayak in the morning. The crocodiles visible on the banks, the roseate spoonbills, and the boat-billed herons in the mangrove roots. The whole estuary ecosystem operating at the pace of the tide in a pocket of wildness that the beach resort on the other side of the estuary road does not diminish. The wildlife of Costa Rica. In Costa Rica, the wildlife does not wait for you to find it, it finds you. The howler monkey announces the dawn from the canopy above the lodge before the alarm has been considered. The Jesus Christ lizard, the basilisk, sprints across the surface of the stream on its hind legs. Its speed and the surface tension of the water, the only things between it and the physics that should pull it under. The poison dart frog, red and black and the size of a thumbnail, moves across the leaf litter of the Corcovado forest floor with the unhurried confidence of an animal that has advertised its toxicity so effectively that nothing has needed to test it in a very long time. Costa Rica holds over 900 species of birds. The scarlet macaw, paired for life, moves through the Osa forest canopy in streaks of red and blue that locate it long before the eye finds it. The toucan sits on the branch above the breakfast table at the Arenal Lodge with its improbable bill and its apparent indifference to the cameras below. The mote-moth, the turquoise-browed mote-moth, its tail feathers ending in two pendulum discs that it swings from side to side in the shadows of the forest edge, is the bird that the experienced birder finds and shows to the beginner. And the beginner's response is invariably to ask why nobody told them about this bird sooner. The sea turtles of Costa Rica's Pacific and Caribbean coasts follow their nesting routes with the same navigational certainty that brought them to these beaches for 100 million years. Leatherbacks at Playa Grande on the Pacific. Leatherbacks and greens and hawksbills at Tortuguero on the Caribbean, the canal-laced national park north of Lim, where the female turtles drag themselves ashore under the cover of darkness to dig nests and lay their eggs in sand, their own hatching imprinted on them decades before. The crocodiles of the Turquoise River bridge the spectacle of enormous American crocodiles visible from the road bridge above the estuary south of Jack. Their bodies arranged on the mud banks in the afternoon sun, with the stillness of creatures that have been doing this since before the mammals were invented, are the wildlife encounter that requires no effort, no guide, no trail. Park the car. Walk to the railing. Look down. The crocodiles are there, as they always are, as they have been for 200 million years. Costa Rican food and nature. The food of Costa Rica begins where the country itself begins, with what the land produces and what the sea provides. The gallo pinto, the mixture of rice and black beans fried together until the beans color the rice and the whole becomes something more than either ingredient separately, is the national breakfast. The meal that Ticos eat at the start of every day, with eggs and natilla sour cream and a cup of Costa Rican coffee as dark and as rich as the volcanic soil that the coffee plants grow in. Costa Rican coffee grown at altitude in the volcanic soils of the Central Valley and the Taraz region. Its beans, harvested by hand from the bright red cherries of the Arabica plant, is among the finest in the world. And drinking it in the country that produced it, freshly roasted, at a wooden table with the forest outside the window, is a different experience from drinking it anywhere else. The ceviches of the Caribbean coast, raw fish or shrimp, cured in lime juice with onion and chili, and the Afro-Caribbean spicing of Puerto Viejo, arrive at the table cold and bright. The citrus having done its work on the raw protein in a preparation that tastes entirely of the coastal waters that produce the fish. The Caribbean rice and beans cooked in coconut milk, a different dish from the Pacific version, despite sharing most of the same ingredients, carries the sweetness and the richness of the coconut through every grain. The flavor specific to this coast and this tradition. Pura Vida, pure life, is the phrase that Costa Ricans use for everything. A greeting, a farewell, an expression of contentment, an acknowledgement that things are good. In a country that chose its forests over its military, its wildlife over its development, its rivers and its reefs over the short returns of extraction, Pura Vida is not just a phrase. It is the summary of a decision that the country made and has been living inside ever since. Costa Rica is not just a country you visit. It is a country that shows you what a country can choose to be. The sloth in the cecropia tree above the Manuel Antonio Trail, hanging in absolute stillness while the world moves below it. The quetzal in the Monteverde mist, its tail feathers catching the light through the cloud. The sea turtle coming ashore on the Osa Peninsula beach at midnight, navigating by senses that 100 million years of evolution calibrated for exactly this moment on exactly this shore. The cold water and the 70-meter drop and the black rock walls of the canyon holding it all together. This is the country that abolished its army and planted trees instead. That looked at what it had and decided to keep it. That said Pura Vida, pure life, and meant it in every direction simultaneously. Costa Rica reminds us that the most extraordinary journey is not always the one that takes you to the most famous place. Sometimes it is the one that takes you to the most honest one. If this journey moved you, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Because the world is full of wonders, and your next adventure is already waiting to begin.